Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marketing and Sales Mastery with JCW. I am Cheryl Washaleski, and I am super excited to have my guest on, Diane Mentzer. Diane and I have connected and stayed connected a little bit. We met through a networking group of fractional leaders. And Diane, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from, because I'm from Michigan, you're from somewhere else, so we always zoom in. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm from another M state. I'm from Maryland. I'm in Germantown, Maryland, just north of DC, and pretty much been in this area my whole life. And yeah, so I am trained and I've served as a integrator as that second in command seat. And that's really what I've been most of my career, either for small business owners, division directors, and then back to small business owners again. And when I went out on my own, it was really to help those people that are in that second in command seat, integrator, COO, vice president, sometimes president, whatever, that person that's leading operations, especially those that have come up through the business. Help them understand how to partner effectively with the CEO and helping the CEO understand that a little bit too, weaving in elements of business operating system best practices. I'm trained in the EOS operating system as an integrator. I got certified as a Catapult business coach. So I have, and I've studied a couple other ones. So I bring pieces of all of those to get the best practices and help companies weave them in. It's especially those companies that have grown organically. You know, you're growing, things are going great, everybody's all in, they're taking on pieces of different things as they see what needs to be done, and you wind up with operations being kind of jumbled just as this natural byproduct of the success you've had. And then to take it to the next level, got to untangle that a little bit.
That's interesting. So yeah, because I think for some people, they haven't even heard the word integrator, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so people are like, you probably, I mean, you said a couple things, right? You talked about the president, a COO, but they don't necessarily think of it as an integrator, right? So tell us a little bit about what typically happens. Let's say it's a smaller company, they're growing, because I even from the sales and marketing side, right? We see that too, where
Yeah.
that person who started the business, they're kind of doing everything. They're probably a little, people might even describe them typically as being like ADD because they're all over the place. It's probably what got them that success to here, but then when you're trying to scale and grow, it becomes too much. So
Yeah.
define
And
integrator a little
overwhelming.
bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and overwhelming. And so what I see a lot is, yes, that business owner is still doing a little bit of everything, and they're not always consistent in what they're doing. Like, oh, this week I'm in the mood for this, and next week I'm in the mood for that, which creates a lot of chaos at the top that winds up costing them in hidden costs that they're not even realizing because duplication of effort or people aren't clear on who's doing what, so it takes longer to get things done. Your processes don't flow as smoothly. All those kinds of things can happen. Also, that business owner starts to burn out a little bit, but when they haven't really taken that step back and thought about what do they want their life to look like, what do they really love doing, and how do they shape their role so they get to focus on the things they love, where they have the biggest impact. And so that's part of the equation. And then sometimes they've got somebody who's come up through the business that they're handing things to, that they kind of lean on a little bit more than the other memberships of their leadership team, even if it's not technically a true second in command yet. There's usually somebody that they're leaning on for that operations, keep things running if I have to step away for a couple of days, all that kind of stuff. And the lack of clarity between those two winds up causing problems. Also, if that person is a natural operations person, which is often who they kind of start leaning on because they see that they get stuff done, they naturally frustrate each other because they see the world completely differently, they operate differently, and the business needs both of them. But when they don't understand or really appreciate the value that the other one brings, appreciate the value the other one brings, or how to effectively communicate with each other, that starts to cause more roadblocks and bottlenecks. And it happens often in sales. I've seen it in sales teams too, where you've got the salespeople who are really great big picture, moving, making the deals, moving fast. They're not into details. And you've got sales support, and they're like pulling their hair out because like, I can't get the right stuff from, so you got to figure out how to make these things work. And that's often what I help people do. But that integrator role can often be, there's really a path. Another thing that I see is business owners who rush to bring in either a fractional or full-time integrator or COO before they've really decided what they want to do and what they want to let go of. That derails everything. You can't be successful if they're not really letting go and letting this person take it on. But that integrator really is integrating all the aspects of the business. They can be a huge asset to the business owner to free them to be able to do the work that they love. And for me, what I've seen and had success with is helping them do that with somebody inside the business, leveling that person up. Yeah, they're not going to be that strategic, been there before, fractional integrator who you're going to want to bring in later, but they can really get you going with that day-to-day. They can really start to take things off your plate. They can handle the stuff that you don't like if you define your roles well. And then when you bring in that person to be strategic, you're not paying them to then also do tactical day-to-day because you've got that tactical day-to-day covered with your internal ops leader. Yeah. You're bringing in that fractional COO or integrator if you're on EOS, but you're bringing in that fractional person who is also strategic and can then support the business owner. And also by working with the internal ops person, it helps level them up as well. But it allows a longer runway before you have to fully invest in a fractional or fully invest in that full-time person. Right. So if they start to see it as a journey rather than a leap, it is less stressful. You're able to build it up a little bit more gradually and make sure that the transitions stick, get comfortable with what you're going to let go of. And when you have a coach for that person that you're leveling up, which is where I come in, then you as the business owner have a little bit more peace of mind, and they're not always coming to you with all the questions because they have somebody who understands the role, who is there to support them, that can help them work through their challenges, that can just dig in with that day-to-day stuff that your strategic business coach doesn't get involved with as much. You know, they're helping you with strategy, big picture, your plan, checking in with you quarterly. Are you making those goals? But a lot has to happen during that quarter to get to those goals. And that's where a coach for your operations lead can come in really handy because it's, you know, you think of the football teams too, you've got so many levels of coaches. There's the head coach, you know, to think of that as your business coach, as your head coach, but you need support for your quarterback or your other players on the team.
So. Right. Yeah, it makes sense. So a lot of times I'll see like, and I think it's hard sometimes for that CEO or business founder to let go. And really they're the, you know, a lot of times they're the visionary. And, you know, so they've got all those ideas. And then, like I said, that energy and just that drive from being an entrepreneur has got them to that level. But then they got to realize you can't, you know, first of all, nobody can work well in something that keeps switching. People, you know, like even, you know, you hear kids, they just need consistency so they know what the rules are. You need to know what your rules are. We talk about that a little bit and when we talk about branding with marketing, right? Your brand is what you deliver, and you deliver it on time or as you promise, right? Because it's building trust with people. But if you're all over the place, you're not building trust with your employees, you're not building trust with your clients, and that's difficult. So I see the integrator even as that high level role just to get the company headed down in the same place consistently all the time, right? And really just trying to match up, and which does impact your team. It does impact your perception, you know, to the public with your brand, right? So it's so important to have those pieces all lined up. And so I think the more a CEO can let go some of the stuff, you know what I mean?
And I get it. You know, this is their baby. This is something that they've built up from the ground. And so it's not like they have to let go of everything all at once. And that's also where there's value in working with somebody who has been in the business, knows the company, you start handing off to them a little bit more, you've already got some of that trust because they're not as unknown quantity that you've just brought in. So it also makes it a little easier, and you don't have to unload everything all at once. And you can even unload tasks in pieces. And so when I work with business owners, I helped one who thought she was going to have this. She's like, I can't have anybody else do this. I've got to do this. And we started digging into it. And I'm like, well, are there pieces? And it turned out she was actually really comfortable letting like 80% of this go to somebody else, as long as she still had final review, final say. And so all of a sudden, she had a few more hours back per week because she wasn't doing the bulk of the task, the subject matter expert work that she had built her business on. And she had somebody that she trusted who did. And it was actually super freeing. And a lot of times, business owners will think, oh, if I define my role, it's really limiting. But it's not. It's defining your role so everybody knows what you're doing. And then that frees you to be that visionary again, because some of this stuff is off your plate and you can stay in that creative visionary space. You can be more in tune with what's coming up. You can get back to building those relationships with your key partners and your clients so that you're always getting those new ideas and you have time for that again, which when you're down in the details, you kind of forget about.
Right, and you have time to look at it. Tell me a little bit, just focusing a little bit on the sales and marketing side, because we talk about aligning the sales and marketing team, right? So that they're talking more together and understanding that, the brand and what we're trying to drive, and make sure the sales team's actually pulling it through, and there's a lot of communication there. But talk about some of the things that you see in how those teams work together with the rest of the organization when you're pulling it through, right? Like, what challenges
Yeah.
do you see?
Yeah, that's interesting. And a lot of it is breaking down those silos, like you were talking about, and doing it at the leadership team level. So when you do role clarity, because you think about it, we have all these like really well-defined job descriptions for sales support, or maybe even a sales manager or something like that. But up at the leadership team, it's like, oh yeah, you've got sales, you've got, it's not as well defined. And when you really take the time to define those roles and see where are the overlaps, so where do we need to make sure handoffs are smooth? Do we accidentally have two people that are, or is there a task that's split and it's not really clear who owns what part of it and who owns the other part? And then when you look at things like client acquisition as not as a sales or marketing only, but like everybody plays a part in sales acquisition and in the client experience, right? It's delivery. Like, if you're not delivering, you're not going to be able to get the new clients in the door. It's really all of those pieces. So helping everybody understand their role in ownership of those tasks and how things cross. So trying to get them to work more, like you said, more together and not so siloed, and understanding how things impact and where the handoffs are. And if you start to create that at a leadership team level, then that's going to flow down to your teams, because they're going to see sales and marketing leaders working together. Maybe you're having a joint team meeting once a month to make so that those teams feel like they're connected, but really thinking about how do they interact, where are the handoffs, what are the KPIs or the targets or the goals that they're actually working together to achieve. It's not sales versus marketing. We do this, you do that. It's like, we're doing this together. And that's what I really try to instill in every company that I work with, is that sense of that we're all in it together, that everybody's actions impact each other, and that impacts the culture. And you want to have input from everybody. And I think too, that's where getting input from each other, I'm a big fan of that, like getting input from the people who are actually doing the work before you finalize things. And
Right.
if sales and marketing have that opportunity to talk, and you're getting input from the people that are boots on the ground, they see that, and that helps also build that we're in it together, and how do we help each other succeed versus how does marketing hit its goals versus how does sales hit its goals.
Right. No, I know. You're right. It's so important. I actually was listening to a podcast maybe about a month or so ago, and it was talking about teams and really it just said your first team, from any leader within a division, let's just say, right? Sales leader, marketing leader, whatever, the ops leader,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your first team is your leadership team.
Yes.
Right? That's your first team. That's the one
Yeah.
you're most dedicated to. And your second team is the people that you're leading and really trying to drive them in that sense. So if you are bonded here, so that way there's not this, I mean, and I say it in the sales and marketing world, right? Because everybody's like, I always say this over and over again. The sales team basically said marketing isn't getting us good enough leads, and the marketing team is saying, yeah, well, sales isn't following up on the ones we're getting them, right? So it's just,
Right.
and then that goes into the delivery. How are you delivering, like you just said, delivering the product and making sure
Yeah.
it flows all the way through. So how often, how often do you recommend leadership organizations to meet with their leadership team?
Well, I think weekly is great. That's the comes out of EOS, the weekly level
Right.
10 meetings. And when you revisit your meeting structure, I love the structure that they use with EOS because it's really focused on solving challenges. Like meetings don't have to be long. You can you block out 90 minutes for that's their model, or whether you block out an hour, whatever it is that you
Mm-hmm.
do. Um, you don't have to fill that hour, right? Like you have your agenda, and it shouldn't just be like, you don't want people to walk away going, this could have been an email, right? It's
Right.
about what if there are things, highlights, or that things that people need to know, like something important that's come up, share that. But otherwise, it's more of like, are you on track or off track with your items? Yeah, you kind of got to go through that update piece so quickly, very high level, quickly, 10 minutes tops to get through that stuff that can often eat up a half hour. And then you get into, okay, what are our challenges that we have at the moment, and let's get into solutioning them, and issues and EOS uses the word issues, which has a negative connotation in the English language. They don't mean it that way, but it's like, what are your challenges and opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's look at challenges and opportunities and dig into that, and then get people action items and make them productive meetings where people walk away feeling like progress has been made and that they've been heard. And that is really powerful and helps build that team feel, that where everybody's working towards the same goal. Everybody gets what everybody else is doing without having to spend, sitting through half-hour updates from each person. That's not what it's about. It's just about, more high level. How are we working together to solve the challenges that are going to move the business forward?
Yeah, I actually worked in as a fractional CMO. I worked in an organization. A number of my organizations actually are on the EOS system, whether it's company implemented or some version
Mm-hmm.
of it, right? But I was in one, and they did their level 10 meetings, and really the intent isn't just to give an update. It's to say, here's the challenge, right? So if we are having trouble on the customer service side, right, and that's not working well, then maybe it needs to go to, it's going to go to the leadership team, and the leadership team's going to try to help that person solve their problems, right? So while they're
Right.
still responsible for it, this is your team to brainstorm on.
Right.
One of the toughest things I experience, and probably you do too, in this role that we are, um, is we don't have that. I would say I have team members. I have people that work with me, but not in the same level. Not like when I was in,
Right.
a Fortune 500 company where we had a whole bunch of leaders that you could talk about things and you can resolve it, right? So when you're even talking about those companies, you have someone to say, look, yeah, here's a problem. Um, we're not solving this problem because there's nothing. There's so many examples that come into my mind, but they're trying to solve the problems, and if they can't, then you've got a team of people that they can do it from, and that's what's
Yeah.
good about us networking. I was in one of my way back when I was in the airline business and I was leading a global sales team. And I remember, so we had gone through a merger, and my counterpart had to keep flying up to New York to calm down a big customer. I mean, I was just like, what's the problem? Like, like, let's fix the problem instead of just trying to calm them down, right? And so
Right.
whatever the problem was, I mean, obviously I mean, how petty it might be, or I don't really even know what the problem was, to be honest with you. I don't know. And it might have just been that person's personality, but at the end of the
Right.
day, it's still a problem. It has to be resolved because it was attached to a whole lot of money. It's like,
Yeah.
and revenue
Right.
coming in, right? And to get it. So as a team, and again, I wasn't necessarily involved with it, but all I kept thinking is, why don't we fix our problem?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's
And
really,
digging deeper, like not asking some questions to go deeper, because if there's a customer service problem,
hmm
it could be something before that. Is there something that's happening with delivery? Is there something in the instructions that aren't clear? Is
yeah,
there, what it doesn't necessarily, like, you have to kind of like dig a little bit deeper and see what's going on. Like, and it was interesting. I commented on a post today on LinkedIn just talking about revenue churn, like your customers that are churning out, and you have to account for that when you're doing your planning. Otherwise, you could be bringing in 20% new revenue, but if you're losing 20% in churn, you're actually losing
you're
ground
losing
because
it,
you're not
right?
even keeping up with inflation,
Yeah,
right? But even that, like, why are customers churning out? You start to look at that, and it's like, oh, are there things that they can fix? Is it just a life cycle that we need to plan for? This is how
right.
long our customers stay with us, or is there something going on? Is there something that's missing in our product? Is there something that's missing in our service? Is there a way to retain these customers? And so when you start looking at things differently and digging a little bit deeper, and not just, a lot of times you get stuck solving the symptom and not
Yeah,
really the cause.
problem. That's
And
right.
that's what those conversations with people who are coming at it from a different angle can help with.
hmm Right. Right. Yeah. And a lot of times too, like, and you had mentioned this, really getting into talking to those people on the front line, because if they don't have a way to push up their information in a you know what I mean? So it's that next level of that leadership team that go through, because a lot of times I
Mm-hmm.
always say this. So my belief is, I mean, I had a sales background. I was in sales for a long time, and I do both marketing and sales.
Right.
I feel like marketing is driving a lot of the company strategy and the culture, and there's some support to the sales team
Mm-hmm.
underneath that as well, right? But the salespeople, I'll say the salespeople and even your customer service people, they know and understand the customer probably better than anybody, right?
Yes.
Because they're the ones that are actually having those conversations, listening to those complaints, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe even have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we were as a sales team, you heard lots of complaints, and my rule was, listen, we don't complain about anything unless we have a solution for it, and we present the problem with our recommended solutions, and our solutions may not be the ones that are adopted. That's okay, but at least we're
Mm-hmm.
not complaining, that the sky is blue and we need to change it,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
you have to have something that's really logical there so that you can actually bring that up, and then really it's, to me, that's bringing stuff up because a lot of times it's cross departmental. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually not, I mean, obviously, if the salesperson has their own issue, they're going to solve their own problem, right? But it's like, it's really because it's somewhere else in the organization that
Yeah.
it's resonating up, and it's really working as that team to kind of come up, present it, help solve it, and move on, right? So it's
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't written about a post about this one yet, but there were two Gallup stats in this latest Gallup data about the workforce that really, one, I was shocked it was quite that low, but not totally shocked, but like only 45% of the US workforce knows what's expected of them at work, feels they know what's expected, right? That's huge. And and I bet if and leadership team members, it's probably lower in some ways because the stuff's not defined for them. And people want to be successful. And when they know how to be successful, they're more likely to work towards that. But only 27% of the US workforce feels appreciated at work. 27%. So think about how that morale is dragging your company down. Even just subtly, when people don't feel appreciated. And so what you're talking about, where you get input and you're actually listening to people, that helps them feel appreciated. And when people feel heard and understood and like their voice matters, even if you don't act on their ideas, if they know that you heard their idea and considered their idea, they are going to be so much more bought in to your success and the success of the company, their success. It's like it is night and day. And all it takes is showing some appreciation. And that's not just a generic thank you, but those are thoughtful thank yous, and thanking people for little things. People expect to be thanked when they do something big. You win an award, you bring in a big new client. You expect to be thanked for that. But when people notice little things as leaders, if we notice little things and thank people for the little things, that goes so much further because it's unexpected.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good. That's
So
good.
you can tell I'm all about the people and the relationships and the communication, because while it's not like immediate dollars and cents, like those are the things that impact the hidden costs, costs associated with turnover. And they keep you from, if you're not doing it, keeps you from really hitting your full speed, because all these other things are going on and people aren't all in.
Right. It makes sense. So if you were to say, give me the top challenges you see organizations repeatedly do over and over again, that just one little small tweak could make a difference for them.
Well, the biggest is the business owner not defining their role. That has a huge impact. It doesn't take that long to do. I do it with business owners in a 90-minute session. There's a little pre-work and a little follow-up, but it doesn't even take that long to do. But I mean, it takes them some thinking time, but that can have such a huge impact on the company. So that's the biggest thing that I see just being missed. And then not taking the time to understand and value what each person, different styles, bring to the table. We tend to like working with people like us. Oh, you get me, you're like me, you know. That's really dangerous in the second in command situation. If a business owner hires somebody like them, the business is not going to move forward at the rate that it could, because you're too similar. And so really understanding how to work with people who are different. And I don't think a lot goes into that, like understanding that, yeah, they work differently from me, but that means they see things I don't. That means they're going to be happy to do things that I hate. Like, what are the good things about the fact that you're very different and that you bring these different gifts to the table? So I think those are two things that make a huge difference for companies and are rarely done.
Yeah, interesting. Well, good. So Diane, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website is Diane Integrates. My LinkedIn, because my last name's hard to spell, so my LinkedIn URL also is Diane Integrates. But I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I'm posting insights there daily. I love engaging with people in the comments and having interesting conversations. Those are two of the best places to get me. My email is diane@dianeintegrates.com. But yeah, I just love getting into conversations with people, hearing what they're seeing, what they're thinking about. It's just such a fascinating environment that we get to work in with these like creative business owners who have these visions and are doing such cool things. I am not wonder and invention. Those are my frustrations. Like I'm discernment. Let me take something and make it better, and enablement. I like to help people make sure they have what they need to succeed. And So I love hearing what everybody else is doing and working on, because that all then ties into how do I help make the world a better place by helping, especially business owners and second in commands, work better together, because when they're in sync, the ripple effects are endless within the company, outside the company, families, clients, stakeholders. So that's how I am making my efforts to make the world a better place, or through that.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us and sharing. It's a great conversation as always.
Oh, I just love talking with you, Cheryl. It's always so interesting, and I love what you bring to the table with your mix of marketing and sales. That's such an amazing combination that you offer your clients.
Well, thank you.